All right, everybody, welcome to NCB Live. This is the third edition. Once again, you got myself, Derek Hernandez here.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Greg back here. Nice to be back.
Definitely. And I think this sound kind of encompasses the whole night here, and hopefully this works. That explains everything for the Domers tonight, I think. And we actually were going to try to have Molly, was a member of our team. She's a diehard Domer fan. She was going to actually try to be on here tonight. She was actually not distraught. She was in the mood to talk with us tonight and kind of give us her reactions. We had some connection problems, so we're going to try again later on, try to get her on there. I know we have some other contributors on the site as well. So we can still talk about the game, though, and it's not going to hurt as bad for us. Obviously, we're Nebraska fans. We had our pain already during the season. So, Greg, what do you think of the game? Or game?
Yeah, hit him with the air quotes, man. It was kind of on beat down status from the beginning. You know, I thought that Notre Dame's defense, I really thought would be up.
Sorry about that.
I thought Notre Dame's defense would be able to hold up a lot better against Bama's run game, that dominant offensive line. But hey, from the beginning, it was pretty clear that they were going to run it down their throats and just kind of do whatever they wanted to them. When Bama had the ball. So it was just kind of downhill from jump. From that first drive, we just kind of saw that it was going to be bad, and it only got worse from there.
Definitely. And I kind of saw some, I don't want to say panic from Brian Kelly, but there were some calls that went against Notre Dame towards the beginning of the game. And I could tell when Kelly, wanted to call that timeout to review that catch, started going on a fourth down, he knew that he had to somehow shift some momentum. He couldn't just play straight up with Bama. Right. And I've been saying this for a while too. I think that layoff hurt Notre Dame more than Bama. They both had a long layoff, but the way that Notre Dame was winning all year long, they had this momentum going. If they would have played this game a week after the regular season, I think it might have been a little different. I'm not saying Notre Dame would have won, right, but it would have been a little more competitive there. I mean, it was just a bloodbath there after a while. I mean, I actually honestly stopped watching after the first half. I was flipping back and forth through Monday Night Raw. The Rock coming back tonight. But anyways, it was just ugly. I mean, it was just dominating from both sides of the line.
Yeah, it was, what the thing that jumped out to me early in the game, and it's weird saying this even though, we've seen Bama a lot throughout the year because they're on TV all the time, but just how much bigger and faster Bama looked than Notre Dame. That really jumped out to me. It really looked like pro-caliber and size players versus a good college team. That's really what it looked like to me. And especially it really stood out, up front. Bama's offensive line, 4 or 5 of those guys are going to not only go on to play in the NFL, we're talking about first-round picks. Like, these guys are serious beasts up front, and that really came out with those big holes. And, it didn't help that Notre Dame couldn't tackle a soul out there. But, yeah, it got ugly.
That was most shocking to me. I mean, the calling card for Notre Dame all year was that they were disciplined on defense, they didn't miss tackles, specifically Manti. I think he missed more tackles in the first quarter, or even that first drive, than he did the last 2 years of his career. And if you didn't know who he was, and we were talking about this before the show, you'd be wondering why they were even talking about him. Like, he didn't look like, he was supposed to be the guy that broke the mold for the Heisman voting. And right. If you didn't know who he was before this game, you're like, really, that's it? It was just bad. I mean, I don't know if they expected their running backs to be really. I mean, they're pretty big guys. Yeldon and Lacey. I mean, Lacey especially. He looks like a lineman, and he's out there running. And maybe they thought he was a little slower than he was, but they were way out of position as well. It was just ugly from the start. They had no shot after the first drive, from my opinion, but.
Right. It almost looked like, and I kind of think there's something to that about it. It almost looked like they did kind of either underestimate Bama's running backs, or, whether it was their complete skill or if it was the speed, especially of Lacey. You could tell with some of those angles they were taking, if they were just so badly out of position, or they just thought that they could take, different angles because they weren't as fast. But, yeah, they found out in a hurry. If Lacey had made one more of those jump cuts on them, or that spin move that he put on and went through 3 different guys on that catch that he made, it was like, come on, man.
That was sick. There's a grown man doing that too. I mean, that was insane. And I kind of want to bring up too I mean, Brian Kelly is supposed to be an offensive whiz, and I mean, not one game doesn't take that away, but he was out there throwing the ball around with Golston, and it's not his strength. I mean, he improved a lot over the year, and he was attacking the best corner maybe in the country
Right.
the whole game in the first half. And you got to run the ball. If your defense is struggling, you got to control the ball a little bit better. Give your team a chance there. And they lost control of that game really really quick.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was strange to me because, I get the only way that I kind of would go with him challenging Milner out there was that if they kept trying to throw it to Zach Eifert, who's the best tight end in the country, so I get that they're trying to get it to him. But when they started throwing it to like these random wide receivers that they have and tried to work it against him, that doesn't make sense. Then you throw in the fact that the way to beat Bama, or at least the way that A&M did it, was by running, and especially kind of running that zone read. And they didn't do that really until the second half. And the time that they did it in the second half, it actually worked a little bit. Now, I don't know if that was because Bama was, kind of, hey, we already won at this point, took the foot off the gas. But, yeah, the play calling in the beginning of the game kind of did baffle me.
Yeah, they didn't really use. I mean, Golston's strength is kind of running around, and that's what Manziel did to kill Bama back, earlier in the season, and they didn't really give him a chance to do that. They wanted to make him a pocket passer, which is definitely not his strength. And if you were going to do that, maybe put in Tommy Rees in a little bit. I mean, I don't think Tommy Rees was going to win you the national championship, but I mean, if you were going to try to switch it up, that would have helped. I mean, at least a tad. For me, I thought
sacrificial lamb out there for Mosley
exactly.
and the boys. They would have done Tommy Rees something dirty.
He would have been Reese's Pieces after that.
Right.
I actually had more, and you were saying this too, is I was entertained more with kind of the internet and during the game rather than the game there for a while. I mean, obviously, people love to pile on Notre Dame. I mean, they get a lot of attention in the positive light, but they're going to get it the other way as well.
Oh, yeah.
There was some funny stuff on the internet there. I mean, I was even taking part of it a little bit. I wasn't hating on them as much as other people would, but I was like, it was vicious out there.
Yeah, it was almost, you just kind of sit back and watch it. I was with you. I jumped in a little bit, mostly on the fact that I was just kind of on their play, on the fact that they really didn't show up. But yeah, it was vicious out there. But we did get the other great thing about the game, probably the MVP of the game was McCarron's girlfriend.
Oh yes, Miss Webb. I'm going to start calling, I make fun of Christian Ponder all the time, being Ponder Steele. I'm going to start calling him McCarron Webb here from here on out.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's going to be able to hold that title down too long. I saw LeBron follow this woman, so I don't know if he's going to be able to hold that for too long.
LBJ got rings now. He's got confidence.
Right.
I don't know.
He still ain't married his woman, so.
Aaron Murray was even getting involved in the whole Twitter thing of his.
Hey man, that was hilarious! Like I thought that was so funny. I think I retweeted his thing and said "Troll Tide" because he not only
that was it. Right?
He sent her a little message. Just like, man, come on, man. Their game next year will have a little extra juice to it.
Does Georgia actually play some of the big boys next year in the SEC? Do they play Bama?
I don't even. Knowing Georgia's luck, they probably don't.
It'd be awesome if they haven't played in a while, other than the SEC title game, obviously. But man, that would be some juicy headlines there.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Hopefully in Tuscaloosa too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Musburger was pretty. I don't understand how he gets to the big games. He's getting worse and worse every year. I think he thinks he's funnier than he actually is, and he's clever.
Yeah, he's definitely that guy.
And Herbstreit just enables him. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
it's still better than
Brandon. Because Musburger is the guy that gave us Jen Sturger down at Florida State.
That is correct. He did do that. So I mean, we got to give him props for that.
Right. So he's definitely got an eye for talent out there. So I don't know how much of the game he's watching, but
I don't even know. Give me Keith Jackson any day of the week. Bring him back.
Yeah, seriously. Give me Gus Johnson.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely take that. As long as Charles Davis isn't with him.
Yeah, really.
Brenneman, he's terrible with that Tebow championship. That was just bad. But they're not that. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I stopped watching the game anyways for a while. So I don't really have anything else to add to that game. I don't want to really put any fuel to the fire. I work with a lot of Notre Dame fans here, so I don't
Yeah,
want to
I'm
say
gonna leave
anything.
him
But
alone. I'm gonna give him a pass on this one because I feel a little bit bad for him, knowing how we felt on that Big Ten championship. I'm gonna let them go.
yeah, I'm sure we'll have some reaction posts from the site. We have a lot of contributors, so be sure to check back on the website.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll see. I know we have a couple of staff members down there, and I told them to kind of send us pictures, so we'll see what the aftermath looks like as well. Kind of leads us to our next thing there, which is basically looking into the top five and kind of the top teams for next year in 2013 for college football. Assuming Nick Saban's back, I mean, there's a lot of rumors of him going to the Browns all the time, but assuming he's back, I think it's safe to say Bama's going to be number one again. I know they lose some linemen, some O linemen, but they have pretty much everybody back.
Yeah, just pencil Alabama in at number one. Like even with losing those offensive linemen, even if C.J. Mosley says he's coming back or going out, even though he already said he was going to come back to school next year, yeah, they'll be loaded again. They don't. They are in that phase right now where they definitely don't rebuild. They reload. There'll be guys that'll probably be better because I still find it odd. It's crazy to think that Mark Ingram won a Heisman, and to my eyeballs, just watching the game, I don't think he's the best back they've had in the last couple of years. Like, and that's insane to think about.
I agree with you, and it was kind of one of those weird things that year was. I think that was the first time a sophomore won it in a while, wasn't it? Or he wasn't even a sophomore, was he?
No,
Sophomore?
I think he was a junior because Tebow won it as a sophomore. Sorry, I had to mention him, but
You're
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah, he won it as a junior.
Oh, he was the first Bama player to win it. That's what it was.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
what
think
it was, which was crazy in itself.
to think about that race was kind of strange too. I think that was the year that Sue basically was making a run towards the end there to win the Heisman, and they didn't really want to give it to a defensive player.
Yeah,
McCoy got
that was the
destroyed
year.
in
That was
that.
the year with McCoy and Sue. Yeah, it was that year.
So that was kind of a strange year, and they had to give it to somebody.
Right.
Uh, Sue was the best player that year, in my opinion. I might be a little biased, but so I mean, you're right though. I mean, he's not even. If you line those backs up now, and you just had to pick teams, you had captains. I don't think Richardson would be in the top three or four out of those guys that you would
No,
pick.
I don't know if Ingram. I think I would take Richardson over him. Lacey, the way Lacey was running the ball, and I think in the future, going forward, I think people will put T.J. Yeldon above him. I think T.J. Yeldon might end up winning a Heisman. He might be the next guy. We'll get to that in a little bit, but he's definitely going to be in the running for the next couple of years.
Definitely, and I think the saying they have a loaded backfield. I think they have eight starters back on offense, eight starters back on defense. Saban's there. I don't think it matters how many starters they're missing. I mean, they're going to be right up there again. Let's see if they can actually go undefeated for a change. They've been losing at least one game every year at home,
Right.
but we'll see that. I mean, I think we're in agreement that they're number one.
Yep.
I think to round out my top five, I'd go Oregon number two, assuming Chip Kelly doesn't leave anywhere here in the next week or so. They have pretty much everybody back. They're just missing probably, I think, Kenyon Barner. They lose a lot of their backs seven,
Yep.
and then some of their D linemen as well. But I think they'll be fine. Offense is their calling card anyways. Stanford, I got them at three, so I have a lot of Pac-10 love right now, or Pac-12 love. I got them back. I think they're only missing Stephon Taylor at running back, so I got them at three.
Yeah.
I don't think Shaw's going anywhere. I think he's going to
No, I
be a
don't
lifer
think
there at Stanford. 4 and 5, this is where I think we're going to differ a little bit. I kept going back and forth amongst a few teams here, but I have LSU at 4, even though I'm really not a fan of Les Miles. I think they're due for a big drop here eventually, but they're not really losing a lot of people. I mean, they're losing a couple D linemen, but they grow them on trees. And at number 5, I have Ohio State, and I think that's the Urban Meyer factor. They're losing a ton on defense. I don't think that's going to be a big concern. There's really not any offensive juggernauts in the Big Ten. I know a lot of people are high on Nebraska next year since they have everybody back but Rex, but I have them pretty high. So that's pretty much my top 5. I left off A&M, Notre Dame, and Georgia, but I don't know what yours looks like.
Yeah, I mean we're definitely in agreement that Bama is number one. So I got Bama as my number one as well. I'll actually have Oregon as my number 2. We are going to take a split here because I actually go Texas A&M 3. I think, obviously Johnny Football's coming back. They'll still have a lot of talent down there. Kevin Sumlin's doing a great job. They'll also have another great recruiting class. They got a couple commits over the weekend at the All-American game. So the pipeline is full down there in A&M. So I think that they'll be back. And then I actually have Stanford up there as well. So I got them at number 4. And then I actually go with kind of it's weird to say that they're a dark horse, but I actually would put Louisville in the top 5 and get them in there at 5. I'm sometimes want to be cautious of those big statement wins in a bowl game and then vaulting somebody up there. But I think Charlie Strong's got a good program, and Bridgewater coming back. I think they'll be good again next year. So that means that I left Ohio State off of my top 5 because I actually think that they're going to be disappointing next year. Then I don't think Georgia will return back to where they were this year. I actually disagree with you on LSU because I think that they lost more than you're giving them credit for. They had even the punter was trying to come out of school early. They had everybody trying to leave school early.
I think he is. Brad Wing did declare. I think they lost him and I actually know that. That's crazy, but he might. I mean, how old is that Leckler over in Oakland? I think they're always drafting kickers pretty high. They might draft Wing in the first round or something.
Right, they might take him with a top 10 pick. That pretty much rounds it out. I think that it's interesting though because I think we're going to have a really good year though next year because even with all of the teams that we kind of just mentioned, that probably will basically round out about a top 10. And those are all, except for Alabama, who will be, head and shoulders above everybody else. You could basically throw the rest of the teams kind of in a hat and kind of see what happens. And then that there's always going to be a couple teams that kind of come out of nowhere. I mean, Notre Dame was unranked coming into the season this year, and here they were getting curb stomped in the championship game. So you never know what can happen.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely start probably in the top 5. I see them more as a top 10 team. I mean, they had a lot of things go their way this year. Nebraska, I think we have to talk about them. I see them kind of in the 15 range. I mean, they literally have everybody back on their offense except Rex Burkhead. I mean,
right.
Hate him, love him, whatever. You still got Taylor Martinez. For some reason, it's weird. I was doing research before the show. He's on everybody's Heisman watch list, and we'll get to this in a little bit. But you have him coming back. You're loaded on offense. The schedule is they don't really go on the road until October 12th.
Right.
That's ridiculous. And then that's at Purdue, and then Minnesota the next week. They can literally be like, let me see this here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8-0 going into that Michigan game, assuming they can handle UCLA at home, which is not a given at all.
No, not with the quarterback coming back out there. No.
Brett Hundley.
Yeah, Brett Hundley.
I mean. So Nebraska can sneak up on some people. I'm not on board. I can see them getting hot at the beginning of the season, faltering at the end. My sleeper team is actually going to be Okie Light. I like Oklahoma State.
Right.
They had the worst luck this year, I think, as a team. All the games they lost were pretty close. They got 2 experienced quarterbacks in Lunt and Walsh. They're going to put up some points. I know Gundy's kind of frustrated out there, but he can still call plays pretty well, or at least run the offense a little bit. And I just think they're going to make some noise in the Big 12. I think OU is going to be replacing Landry Jones. Texas, I think somehow they're always overrated. I don't want to get into that as much as I really want to get into that. Kansas State, I think, is going to falter down a little bit. They had a lot of older guys on that team, but I just think they're going to make some noise in the Big 12.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I'm going back and forth on my sleeper team. I hate to do it. I don't want it to be a homer pick, but I think Nebraska will be that sleeper team next year. So I agree with you.
Dude.
I have to do it. I got to do it. So they will start off, I think, in that 15 to 20 range, which is about right. But I think what will happen is other teams will lose as Nebraska kind of goes through that first 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season where they don't play really anybody except for UCLA, and even though that's at home, coming off of a close game loss out in Pasadena last year. So that'll be interesting. I think they should be able to make it through UCLA, and that the defense has to get better, right? It can't get any worse, right? I mean, unless we fall back in the he who shall not be named years, then it has to, get better. The offense will be loaded.
I think our defense will be more athletic. I mean, we're going to have a lot of young guys. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to necessarily be better. But I don't know. I mean, they can't get any worse unless, like you said, we're going back to 2007. But I don't think there's anybody on our schedule that's going to put up that many points until the end of the year anyways.
Right.
Except UCLA.
And that's the thing. The thing is that, and it's sometimes in college football, the schedule is what really, helps you out. And I think the schedule broke right finally for Nebraska. The Big Ten guys punished them these first couple years, but I think it definitely is going to even out for them this year. And I could see them getting hot. You get to that Michigan game and you're playing well and feeling good about yourself, even though it's in the big house. And shout out to that, because I'm going to try to see if that can be my road trip next year. Put in my early feeler for that.
I might actually do the same, depending on how much ticket.
Yeah, we might have to see about the NCB road trip, but I think they have a shot
for sure. I mean, even without Shoelace, they got Gardner's no joke, so that's going to be a tough game either way. And speaking of Shoelace and kind of past Heisman, names, I kind of want to delve into kind of Heisman, the top 5 Heisman candidates you see going into next year. Obviously, Johnny Football is probably going to be a given for the next 2 years, unless barring some major injury. So he's pretty much a given. I think we pretty much might have the same group here. You obviously have to go Clowney. He's a freak. That guy's insane, and he's gonna have to put up some insane numbers to win it. But you got to put him up there. Braxton Miller, I'm still high on him. As long as Urban's coaching him, he's gonna put up gaudy numbers, and as long as he doesn't die on the field the way that they run him. I also have a split between DeAnthony Thomas and Mariota. I think Thomas will be up there early. I just don't think he can. I don't think he'll touch the ball enough. I think he's going to have one of those. He's going to have to come up with that big play every big game that they need. And I don't know if they're going to have that many close games for him to come up with those moments. Right. So I'm actually going to go with Mariota probably over DeAnthony Thomas. He got overlooked this year for some reason. I don't know if it's because Johnny Football was just tearing it up, but you look at Mariota's stats; they're pretty insane too. So
they really
those are kind of my main guys. I left off some people on there, but what are your thoughts on it?
It's funny because we actually have the exact same list, and I actually had, thinking about it, DeAnthony Thomas / Marcus Mariota. So we were definitely on the same page there. And I'm with you. Starting with Mariota, I'm confused as to why he just completely gets overlooked. It's strange. I get the whole Johnny Football thing, and Oregon, you kind of expected a little bit more with that crazy offense. They put up a lot of numbers, all of that. But yeah, it doesn't make sense to me as to why he didn't get necessarily the pub. They were both redshirt freshmen. So we'll see. Next year, I think he'll definitely be in the conversation. I think as a dark horse, I like Taj Boyd out at Clemson, quarterback. Going to your point on dark horses about seeing Taylor Martinez on the list, even though I picked Nebraska as a dark horse, I still don't see that happening just because I don't see him playing well consistently enough. I just feel like he's going to have –
he turns the ball over.
Yeah, I just want to say he's going to have a game where he turns the ball over 4 times, and it'll knock in a big game, probably that Michigan game, where it cost the team the game.
Yeah, I think unless he's putting up like Johnny Football numbers – or we're undefeated going into the Big Ten championship, I don't even see how he gets invited. I might be, I have a bet with another Husker fan where I told him that Taylor's not even going to make the top 15 ever in his career. And I might be a little too harsh on Taylor, but, we do have a national brand. I can see him getting some pub, putting some numbers up early in the season, but I just don't see it at the very end. We have a tough schedule towards the end of the season. Yeah. I can see him kind of be mentioned at first, but yeah, I'm not really a Taylor believer.
I go back and forth on Taylor. It's we could do I guess we could do a whole show on the wonder that is Taylor Martinez. So we'll spare people on that. But I'm with you. I don't see him. Maybe not top 15. I could see him maybe being top 15. I don't see him being top 10. So we'll see if your bet is safe.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. We also left off Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, you were high on his team. I just don't think he's going to face good enough competition. I mean, his conference sucks. Don't believe the commercials and all their. They won they won the most BCS games or the best record or whatever they want to say. I just don't think he's going to play good enough competition. And he's a great quarterback. I just don't think he's going to put up big enough numbers to kind of warrant himself to be in the race. But
it's interesting though because the same reason I like Louisville to be good throughout the year because they play that soft schedule in the Big East is the same reason that I don't like Teddy Bridgewater in the Heisman candidate. I'm with you on that. Is that he just doesn't play good enough competition, and I don't know about him having that signature moment. I think that Johnny Football was thrust onto the stage this year by beating Alabama. And then people realize, hey, wait a second, he's putting up great numbers. You're not going to necessarily have that moment with Bridgewater, which is why, winning the BCS Bowl game this year was such a big deal for him, is that hopefully that catapults them onto the stage for next year and just keeps them there. But, yeah, I agree that he's going to be probably on the outside looking in.
Definitely. And we also left off A.J. McCarron, Aaron Murray, and Marquise Lee. I know those are kind of some big names this year. For me, just quick hitters here. I don't think Marquise Lee's going to have I don't think Whittick's going to be able to give him the ball enough to put up those numbers he put up this year. Aaron Murray, I'm hit or miss on that guy. I don't know. I think I can see him putting up big numbers. For some reason, Georgia is one of those teams I just never really believe in all the way. A.J. McCarron, I can see him sneaking in there. I mean, he looked like a pro quarterback today, but Notre Dame just looked terrible. So, I mean, those are guys we left off. I don't know if you have any thoughts on those guys.
Nah, man. A.J. McCarron can win all the national championships he wants, have all the pretty models. He is Ken Dorsey 2.0 to me. So I would not.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far.
No, he's Ken Dorsey 2.0, man. Like, okay.
Oh, wait.
Yes, if you stick anybody. Okay, so if you switched A.J. McCarron and Tyler Wilson from Arkansas, you think Tyler Wilson will probably tear it up just as much, probably more than A.J. McCarron does, because he's got this NFL offensive line and two stud running backs behind him, not to mention pretty good receivers and tight ends.
They wouldn't let him do it anyway.
Probably wouldn't
let him tear it up.
He probably wouldn't, but no, he's Ken Dorsey 2.0 in my book. And I actually got into an argument with somebody online about that earlier. But yeah, no, I'm not a believer in him at all. Aaron Murray, to me, I would actually he could probably be a dark horse next year. We'll see if they can be consistent enough. I agree with you though about not believing in Georgia ever. So yeah, this is kind of we had the same thoughts pretty much on that, except for A.J. McCarron. Ken Dorsey, maybe Brock Berlin.
Oh my God, a Brock Berlin reference. Why did you bring up Gino Toretta too? Since we're bringing back over.
Nah, Gino was better than that. Gino was a beast.
You've lost me right here on the show, man. We're going to move on from that. Surprises, then. Sleeper dark horses for the Heisman. I think we kind of agree on this too. I think it's going to be Watkins or Boyd. They play Georgia early. No matter how we feel about Georgia, they're going to be ranked pretty high. It's an SEC team. They can put up big numbers there and pull off that win. They may disappear later on, but I think they'll be hanging around. I think they'll put up good enough numbers. I'm going to go actually Amir Abdullah as one of my sleeper picks. I know it's insane. I was one of the biggest Abdullah fans all year long. I actually wanted him to play more than Rex most of the season. It also helped that Rex was hurt. But I think he's going to be a stud. As long as he can hold on to the football, he's got athletic ability like crazy. He's going to get a lot of carries. I mean, that's what we do at Nebraska. We run the ball. I think I have him up there. And extreme dark horses, I have Dree Archer at Kent State. I don't know if it was just that one game he looked like a stud. He's got a badass name, too. And I'm going to say Lachey Seastrunk, or Lake Seastrunk, or however you say his name.
I still don't know. I just call him Seastrunk because I have no clue.
Yeah, so those are my sleepers, but...
Yeah, I'll start with the last one that you had. I love Seastrunk as a sleeper. That's kind of a deeper sleeper to me. But I still stick with Taj Boyd as kind of that sleeper for me. I think that, yeah, that Georgia game early will help. We'll see if Clemson can finally stay on the stage for the full season. They usually tend to start off ranked pretty high as well and then kind of fall off. They'll lose to, Georgia Tech or something during the season. We'll see if they're able to kind of stay up there long enough to keep him in the race. But, yeah, I really like Taj Boyd going into next year.
For sure. And I think a lot will change depending on what coaching changes happen if Saban leaves. Chip Kelly, we still don't know what's going to happen there. There's still a lot of early declarations for the NFL. So a lot of this stuff could change. This is obviously very early. The season just ended, so we'll see what happens there.
They're still rolling Notre Dame's corpse off the field at this point.
Yeah, I'm surprised. No, that's just Lou Holtz, man. I mean, that's not a corpse.
Oh, wait, no, that's just Lou.
I want to see Mark May in his conversation with Lou tonight, but we'll see what happens there. For me, I actually, for the show, I think that's pretty much all we had to talk about for college football. I'm kind of wrapping up the season here. We'll obviously do some coverage probably about recruiting. Like I said, we'll try to get some of the domers on the site to be involved in this show as well. I kind of want to start doing some sort of final thought, Jerry Springer style here with the show. I know you're probably not prepared for that, Greg. I didn't mention that to you till now.
That's fine. Actually, I was just thinking I might have something for you. You go ahead. I got something for the people.
All right. Yours might be a little more serious than mine. Obviously, the second half of the game was kind of out of hand tonight. So I was flipping back and forth between Raw and the national title game. The Rock was coming back tonight. I watch it anyways without The Rock, but I'm just saying he got ethered by CM Punk tonight. CM Punk laid down the truth tonight. He basically called his shtick child's play, basically. And when I watched it, I felt sad for The Rock. He didn't know where he was going. He was talking about CM Punk being naked and stuff with tattoos. I had no idea. I was not entertained. I was not electrified. I'm going for Punk in this battle. I thought he won that. Round one goes to CM Punk tonight. That's my final thought.
All right, so a quick side note before I get to my final thought. I actually watched, so I never actually watched wrestling, even though you quietly try to poke me in the direction. But once I got the alert on Twitter that The Rock was on, I watched it, and he wasn't electrifying me like the good old days. So yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one. Round one to CM Punk. We'll see if I even watch the next round though. My final thing, my final thing that I want to leave everybody with is just kind of talking to, wrapping up the game, putting a nice bow on it, talking about Nick Saban. So, he's now got, 4 titles, and we can now start to talk about Bear Bryant and trying to get, to that mythical 6. So Bear Bryant has 6. I think we can finally start to talk about that conversation because if you think about it, depending on if Saban calling his shot, how long does he want to stay at Alabama? Will he get bored? Will he go coach the Cowboys? Will he go coach the Browns? Is he going to turn it over to Kirby Smart anytime soon? I'm really interested to see, going forward, if he can take this dynasty that he's built, and it is a dynasty, and I do kind of agree with Herb Street that we might be in the middle of it. This thing is not over, which is kind of scary for the rest of the college football world. But I think it really just depends on, does Nick Saban really want to go after, like, the legend of Bear Bryant, especially at that school, and try to challenge that. I think that, moving forward, he's definitely earned his place on that Mount Rushmore, so I'm really interested to see that.
Oh, yeah, well said. I agree with you totally there. It'd be interesting to see. It used to be like, you're crazy. You can't compare anybody to Bear Bryant, but I think you can. Even Bama. So to the next episode for us. Take it easy, guys.
Yeah, peace.